This person is trying to decide if they should return, not at some distant time, but right now, tonight. Somewhere in a quiet place, your name is sitting heavy in their thoughts. They are thinking deeply, going back and forth inside their own mind. This is not random, and you were not brought to these words by chance. Something is shifting, something has already started to move, and you were guided here because you are meant to understand what that change means before another night passes without clarity. There is something important happening beneath the surface, and you are closer to the truth than you realize, even if part of you still feels unsure. When someone truly starts to feel like they have lost you, their mind does not simply become calm or accept it and move on.
It does not just settle and forget like nothing ever happened. Instead, it begins trying to reach back toward you in ways that are not always obvious. It tries to reconnect, to feel your presence again, even if only in small and indirect ways that might seem meaningless at first. In this moment, you are being shown how that happens, what it looks like in real life, how it feels internally, and why it is already happening with this person right now. You were not led here randomly. Something within you pulled you here because it knew you needed to see this and understand it more clearly than before. The mind does not go quiet when it believes something meaningful is slipping away. It becomes active in a different way. It searches for pieces of the past. It revisits moments. It replays conversations again and again. It tries to step back into your space, even if only from a distance where it feels safer. The timing of you being here matters more than you think.
You are here right now because something is happening on the other side, something that involves you directly, even if you cannot yet see it fully or explain it in simple words. What they feel for you is not something small or simple. It is not just routine, not just comfort, not just something that stayed because it was easy or familiar. It is deeper than that, something that does not disappear just because someone tries to push it away. It does not fade just because they tell themselves it should, or try to convince themselves that it is over. It continues to rise, again and again, even when they try to ignore it or replace it with distractions. That feeling keeps returning, no matter how many times they try to quiet it or move past it. You were not imagining any of it. You need to remind yourself of that again and again until it settles inside you. The connection you felt was real. It was not something you created out of loneliness, hope, or imagination.
It existed on its own, without needing proof. It has been there, steady and real, whether it was spoken openly or kept hidden. And every moment of it has mattered more than you may have realized at the time. If you place your hand on your chest, you can feel a warmth there. That feeling is not empty or meaningless. It is something real, something alive, something that continues even in silence. That same kind of feeling appears in them when something reminds them of you. It happens when they hear something familiar, when they pass a place connected to you, or when a small and ordinary detail suddenly brings you back into their mind without warning. That feeling moves between both of you. It always has, even during distance. There is an awareness that sees this connection clearly, even when neither of you fully understands it. It sees what they carry inside, even the parts they cannot express out loud.
It sees the quiet moments when your name is present in their thoughts, but there is no place for them to put it. And that is part of why you are here now, because something is getting closer to a turning point, something that cannot stay hidden much longer. Right now, they are in a place where they are deciding, and deciding is not the same as not caring. A person who truly does not care does not sit and think this deeply. They do not go back and forth in their mind. They do not hesitate, pause, or question themselves again and again. They simply move forward without looking back. But this person is not doing that. They are standing still in their own way, looking back toward you, caught between what they feel and what they are afraid to face. That kind of inner conflict only happens when something matters deeply. You matter deeply. You have always mattered more than they may have been able to show.
Pause. At first, when someone feels like they are losing you, their actions are very small. They do not come forward directly. Instead, they reach in quiet ways. They check your name. They look again later. They notice things connected to you, but do not always react openly. They stay longer than they planned, thinking more than they expected to think. They might come across something old and pause, even if they tell themselves not to. They may ask about you in ways that seem casual but are not really casual. They may bring your name into conversations where it was not necessary. They make themselves slightly visible, just enough to feel close without fully stepping forward. They are not ready to speak openly, but they are not gone either. They are somewhere in between. After that, it moves into another stage where they begin to test the situation. They may go quiet for a while, then suddenly something small appears, a short message, a simple check-in, something that looks normal on the surface, but carries a deeper reason behind it. They want to see how you respond.
They want to understand if you are still open, if the connection is still there in some form. They are trying to figure out if there is still a way back. When those small actions do not give them clear answers, something more real begins to show. It may not be a full confession, but it is something closer to the truth. A message that feels heavier than it should. A question that does not really need to be asked. A sentence that starts simply but carries something deeper underneath. That is not weakness. That is something real trying to come through in the only way it can. They go back to old conversations. They read them again. They pause at certain words. They remember things they once overlooked. They think about what was said and what was never said. They type something and delete it. They start again and stop. That pattern repeats more than you would expect. That is not someone who has forgotten. That is someone still connected in a way they cannot easily explain.
During the day, they may seem fine. They go through their routine, talk to people, do what they need to do. But when everything becomes quiet, the truth becomes harder to avoid. At night, your name comes back into their thoughts more clearly. There are moments where they cannot distract themselves from it. They lie awake thinking, feeling, trying to understand what they should do next. Sometimes even their dreams bring you back. In those moments, everything feels close again, almost real. Then they wake up and remember the distance, and the cycle begins again from the start. Their body reacts too, even when they try to stay in control. A tight feeling in the throat when your name comes up. A sudden drop in the stomach when something reminds them of you. A warmth they try to ignore but cannot fully push away. The body does not forget. It holds memory in its own way. They tell themselves many things to try to make it easier. They tell themselves it is over.
They tell themselves time will fix everything. They try to believe it was just habit or routine. They convince themselves that someone else will fill the space. They repeat these thoughts again and again, hoping they will become true. But those thoughts do not fully remove what they feel. That feeling stays. They think about you more than they expected to. They remember small details, not just big moments. The way you spoke, the way you listened, the way you made them feel understood. Those are not easy things to replace. At the same time, fear becomes stronger. Fear that it may already be too late. Fear that you have moved forward. Fear that you may not respond if they reach out. Or fear that you will respond, and everything they tried to control will come rushing back. They wonder if they lost something they were meant to keep. They think about the things they did not say, the moments they could have handled differently.
That awareness stays with them, even when they try to ignore it. And while all of this is happening on their side, something important has changed on yours. You are not the same as before. You have shifted in ways that are quiet but powerful. You stopped waiting in the same way. You stopped checking constantly. You stopped shaping yourself to fit into a space that was not being filled. You stopped making excuses for silence. You stopped asking to be chosen again and again. In that space, something new formed inside you, a steadiness, a sense of self that does not depend on someone else's actions or decisions. You became whole in a way that does not need constant reassurance. That change matters more than you think, because even from a distance, it can be felt. The version of you that used to wait is not there in the same way anymore, and that shift creates something they cannot ignore. Now, whatever happens next is not something you need to control. Their decision is theirs.
Their timing is theirs. Their fear is theirs to face. You are no longer responsible for carrying both sides of what was once shared. Your peace belongs to you now, fully and completely. What you felt was real. It always was. You were not wrong for feeling deeply. That is not a weakness. It is something rare and meaningful. And no matter what happens next, nothing can take away the growth you have reached. Nothing can undo the strength and calm you have built inside yourself. You are not waiting in the same way anymore. You are standing in your own space, steady and complete. And from that place, whatever comes next will meet a different version of you. A stronger one, a calmer one, a whole one. They have noticed changes. They noticed when you stopped reaching out in the same way. They noticed when your energy shifted, even if they could not explain it. These things do not go unseen. Even silence can speak loudly when there was once connection.
They are standing in a place where a decision has to be made, and deciding does not mean they stopped caring. In fact, the need to decide often comes from caring deeply. Someone who truly does not care simply walks away without looking back. They do not hesitate, they do not question, and they do not revisit what they left behind. But this person is not doing that. They are still there, still thinking, still looking back toward you. What they are experiencing is an inner struggle. Part of them wants to move forward, while another part keeps pulling them back toward you. That kind of conflict does not happen without reason. It happens when something truly matters. And you are the reason it matters. Right now, their mind is trying to find ways to reconnect without fully stepping forward. It begins with small, quiet actions. They might check your name, then check again later.
They might look at something you shared and spend more time on it than they intended, even if they do not react to it openly. They might notice details connected to you that they would have ignored before. They may interact in ways that seem accidental, like responding to something old or noticing something from the past. These are not random actions. They are ways of staying connected without fully revealing what they feel. They might ask about you through someone else, even if the question seems simple on the surface. They might bring up your name in a conversation where it does not naturally belong. These small actions are not meaningless. They are signals. They show that you are still present in their mind, that they are still trying to feel their way back toward you, even if they are not ready to do it directly. At the same time, they are testing something important.
They are trying to understand if the connection is still open, if there is still a way back, if you would respond, or if the distance has become too great. This testing does not always look clear or direct. It can appear subtle, almost invisible if you are not paying attention. They may hesitate before reaching out. They may think about sending a message, then stop, then think about it again. They may start writing something and then erase it. This cycle can repeat many times because they are unsure of what will happen if they take that step. What holds them back is not the absence of feeling. It is the presence of uncertainty. They do not know how things will be received. They do not know if the connection is still the same. They do not know if they will be welcomed or pushed away, and that uncertainty creates hesitation. But even with that hesitation, They are still there, still thinking, still feeling. That has not disappeared. It continues to exist beneath everything else.
As time moves forward, this internal struggle grows stronger. The more they try to ignore it, the more it returns. The more they try to move away from it, the more it follows them. That is because what they feel is not something that can simply be turned off. It is something that stays until it is faced. And right now, they are getting closer to facing it. The distance between thought and action is becoming smaller. The silence is no longer as comfortable as it once was. Something inside them is pushing for resolution, for clarity, for a decision that cannot be delayed much longer. You are part of that decision. You have always been part of it. Whether they admit it or not, whether they show it or not, your presence is still influencing what they feel and what they choose. There is a reason you were brought to this moment, to this understanding. It is because something is already in motion. Something is building, slowly but steadily.
And before long, it will reach a point where it cannot stay hidden anymore. Until then, everything you are seeing, everything you are feeling is part of that process. Nothing about it is random, nothing about it is meaningless. It is all connected, and it is all leading somewhere, visible. A glimpse, a story, a quiet moment of being that touches the edge of your awareness and then fades away. They are not ready to speak yet, but they are not gone either. They are moving around you in a way that is careful and uncertain. They are trying to understand the space between where they stand and where you stand, asking themselves if that space is safe enough to cross. Then, something else begins to happen inside them, something deeper. They grow quiet, and then they return again. They disappear for days, sometimes longer, and then suddenly something appears. A simple message, a small comment, something that looks ordinary on the surface.
A check-in that feels like it just happened without thought. A shared memory placed gently in your path as if it just came to mind. But it is not random at all. They are watching closely. They want to know if you will respond. They want to see if the version of you who once reached out is still there. They are searching for a sign that the door is not fully closed. And when these small attempts do not give them the clarity they hoped for, when they cannot tell if you noticed or felt anything at all, something real begins to slip through. A message that says less than it holds. A question that did not need to be asked. A sentence that begins simply but carries something deeper underneath. A truth hidden inside something casual. A moment where the wall they built shifts just a little, enough for what is behind it to show. That is not weakness. That is something real trying to find a way out. They check the last message you sent. They read it once, then again. They look at the time it was sent. They put their phone down, then pick it up again. They open your name and stare at the empty space where words could go. They type something, then erase it. They try again, then stop. They sit there holding the phone without saying anything. They put it away, then return again. They scroll through old conversations, going all the way back to the beginning. They stop at something you once said, and stay there longer than they expected. That is not someone who is forgotten. That is someone dealing with something stronger than their own choices. That is someone who still cares deeply and does not yet have the strength to say it out loud again. Something placed this connection between you with meaning. What is placed with meaning does not simply disappear. What started between you is still moving forward in its own way. The silence did not end it. The distance did not end it.
No decision made in a moment can undo something that began far deeper than logic. What they feel is not something simple. It does not follow rules. It does not fade just because they tell it to. Respect alone does not keep someone awake at night. What keeps them awake is something deeper, something that does not listen to reason.
Touch your wrist and feel your pulse. That steady rhythm has been there through every quiet day and every long night. It never stopped. It continued without asking for permission. In the same way, what they feel has continued, even when they tried to end it, even when they told themselves it was over, even when they tried to replace it with something else, it remained. There is something watching every restless night they spend thinking about you, something that sees the way they try to control what cannot be controlled, something that brought you to this moment because something is shifting. During the day, they appear normal. They speak to others, they go through routines, they seem fine. But at night, there is no distraction left. At night, only truth remains. They lie awake in the early hours, staring into the dark. Your name fills the silence around them.
Time passes, but sleep does not come. They stay caught between wanting to reach out and being afraid of what might happen if they do.
The empty space beside them is just empty. Yet something inside them refuses to accept that fully. Their thoughts can be managed during the day, but dreams cannot be controlled. And in those dreams, you are present. You are close. You are real in a way that feels undeniable. You speak, you laugh, you look at them the way you once did, without distance or barriers. They wake up, and for a few seconds, everything feels normal again. Then reality returns and the feeling fades slowly. Their body reacts before their mind has time to catch up. A tight feeling in the throat when your name is mentioned. A sudden drop in the stomach when something small reminds them of you. A warmth they try to push away. Their breathing shifts. Their hands become still. The body remembers what the mind tries to forget. They told themselves many things. They told themselves it was finished. They told themselves to move on. They said it was just a part of life that had ended. They believed time would take care of everything. They convinced themselves that what they felt was just habit. They believed someone else would eventually take your place. They repeated these ideas until they almost sounded true. But none of it was true. What they feel did not disappear. It stayed, quietly and consistently. It is still there, waiting in the background of everything. If they could speak without fear, if nothing held them back, they would admit what has been hidden. They would say they think about you often. They would admit they tried to move on but could not make it real. They would say they filled their time with distractions, but nothing replaced what they lost. They would admit that you are still present in their thoughts in a way they cannot explain. They would remember small details, the way you spoke, the way you listened, the way you made them feel understood. They would admit they have not found that feeling again. They would remember moments clearly, things they thought they had forgotten but never truly did. They would admit regret, the kind that grows stronger with time. They would admit fear, not just of reaching out, but of what it would mean if they did. They are afraid it might be too late. That fear sits beneath everything else. They wonder if you have already moved forward. They wonder if you found peace without them. They are afraid of being ignored, but also afraid of being answered. They are unsure of what your presence would do to them now.
Boss, they question whether they damage something that cannot be repaired.
They question whether you would feel anything at all. They know they caused pain. They know there were things left unsaid. They know they walked away without understanding the full impact. And yet, despite all of that, they still miss you. Something has changed in you as well. You stopped waiting in the way you once did. You stopped checking for signs. You stopped holding on to every small detail. You stopped trying to make sense of silence. You stopped making excuses for things that did not deserve excuses. You stopped shrinking yourself to fit into something incomplete. You stopped asking for clarity that was never given. You stepped back. You became steady. You chose your own peace without needing confirmation from anyone else. That change matters more than you realize. They can feel that change even from a distance. They may not understand it clearly, but they sense it. And that awareness creates movement inside them. When someone feels they are truly losing something important, they begin to react. First in small ways, then in more noticeable ways. The signs may already be there, or they may be coming. Not because you chased, but because you stopped chasing. You are no longer the person who waits at the door. You became the person who stands on their own. That shift changes everything. It changes how you feel, how you think, how you move through your days. It also changes how others respond to you. What happens next is not something you need to force. It is something that unfolds on its own. You are not waiting anymore. You are complete as you are. You are aware of your own worth without needing it to be reflected back to you. That is where your power is. That is where your peace is. And no matter what happens next, that part of you remains steady. You are seen, you are understood, and you are moving forward in a way that is real and lasting.